Listen, life is going to throw people at you. People who annoy you, provoke you, insult you, and test every ounce of patience you have. That's a given. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to let every fool you encounter dictate your emotions? Are you going to surrender your peace of mind to the first person who looks at you the wrong way? If that's the case, you're not in control of yourself. Other people are, and that's no way to live, yeah. One of the greatest traps people fall into is blaming others for their emotional state. They get frustrated, angry, or annoyed and immediately point the finger outward. He made me mad, she ruined my day, or they always do this to me. But let's step back for a moment and really think about what this means. If someone else has the power to control your emotions, what does that say about you? It says you are not in control. It says you have surrendered your peace of mind to external forces, leaving yourself at the mercy of whoever or whatever happens to cross your path. This is a dangerous way to live, because the world is full of people who will provoke you, situations that will challenge you, and circumstances that won't go your way. If your emotional state depends on things outside of you, you will always be in a reactive state, bouncing from frustration to anger to resentment, with no stability, no inner strength, and no control. You'll be like a leaf in the wind, blown in whatever direction the world decides. And that's not strength, that's weakness. True power comes from mastering yourself. It comes from realizing that nobody, not a single person, has the ability to make you angry unless you allow them to. Your emotions are your responsibility. This isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending nothing bothers you. It's about recognizing that your response is always a choice. If someone insults you and you explode in rage, was it really their words that caused it? Or was it your inability to regulate your emotions? If a coworker's behavior ruins your entire day, was it really them? Or was it your lack of discipline over your own mind? Once you understand this, everything changes. Instead of being a victim of other people's words and actions, you become someone who dictates their own emotional state. You start to realize that the power lies within you, not outside of you. And that's a liberating realization. But let's be clear, this isn't easy. Mastery over yourself requires effort. It means observing your reactions, understanding your triggers, and actively choosing not to be controlled by them. It means pausing before you react, taking a breath, and asking yourself, is this worth my peace? Because most of the time, it isn't. Look at the people who have truly mastered themselves. They don't explode over small provocations. They don't let trivial annoyances throw them off course. Why? Because they operate on a higher level. They understand that every time they let someone else dictate their emotions, they are giving away their power, and they refuse to do that. So ask yourself, do you want to be at the mercy of the world, or do you want to be the one in control? The answer determines whether you are truly free or simply a puppet to everything and everyone around you. There's a reason why some people never seem to get caught up in pointless arguments, why they don't let petty provocations shake them. It's not because they don't experience frustration. It's because they're too focused on something bigger. They have a purpose, a mission, a goal that overshadows the trivial nonsense that so many others get tangled up in. Think about it. The people who are most easily offended, the ones who always seem to be in some kind of dispute, who constantly react with anger and frustration, what are they focused on? Nothing meaningful. They waste their energy on proving others wrong, defending their egos, and engaging in pointless conflicts that lead nowhere. And in the process, they become slaves to their emotions, completely unaware that they're wasting time they'll never get back. If you find yourself constantly getting irritated by others, Ask yourself a simple question. What am I aiming at? What am I working toward? Because if you don't have a clear answer, it's very easy to be dragged into trivial disputes. When you're not committed to something bigger, your mind has space for nonsense. You become reactive, emotionally fragile, and easily swayed by the opinions and actions of others. And before you know it, you're giving your energy to conflicts that don't serve you, that don't build you, and that, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter at all. But when you aim higher, when you are dedicated to something meaningful, everything changes. Suddenly, the small stuff doesn't matter. The rude comment from a stranger, irrelevant. The passive-aggressive remark from a coworker, not worth your attention. The petty arguments that drain so many people, a complete waste of time. Why? Because your mind is occupied with something greater. When you have a purpose, your perspective shifts. You start to see how small and insignificant most conflicts really are. And instead of reacting emotionally, you let them pass because you have better things to focus on. Think about the most successful, disciplined people in the world. Do you see them getting into pointless arguments? Do you see them constantly offended by minor inconveniences? No. They don't have time for that. They're building something. They're moving forward. They're so focused on their goals that they don't have the mental space for distractions. And that's exactly where you need to be. You have to make a choice. Do you want to be the kind of person who is easily provoked, who wastes their energy on meaningless conflicts? Or do you want to be the person who remains unshaken, who keeps their eyes on the bigger picture, who is too focused on their own growth to be dragged down by nonsense? The moment you start aiming higher, you'll notice something incredible. The things that used to bother you won't anymore, not because the world has changed, but because you have, and that's real power. Emotional control is not about suppression, it's about mastery. It's about choosing how you respond rather than letting the world dictate your emotions. And the only way to achieve that mastery is through discipline. Most people believe that their emotions are automatic, that anger, frustration, and irritation just happen to them. But that's not true. Your emotions are patterns, habits you've reinforced over time. If you've spent years reacting impulsively, exploding in anger whenever someone provokes you, then of course that's going to feel natural. But that doesn't mean it's inevitable. It just means you haven't trained yourself to respond differently. Think about it this way. If you wanted to build physical strength, what would you do? You'd go to the gym, lift weights, and train your body consistently. Over time, you'd grow stronger, more capable, and more resilient. The same is true for emotional strength. If you want to remain calm under pressure, if you want to stop being controlled by every little annoyance, you have to train for it. You have to develop the discipline to pause, reflect, and choose your response instead of blindly reacting. This isn't about ignoring your emotions, it's about understanding them. When you feel anger rising, stop for a moment, observe it. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this? Is this reaction helping me or hurting me? Is this worth my energy? 9 times out of 10, you'll realize that your anger is unnecessary, that it's a reaction to something insignificant, something that won't matter in a day, a week, or a year. And the more you practice this self-awareness, the more control you gain. Discipline is what separates those who are easily manipulated from those who are unshakable. A disciplined mind does not give its power away. It does not allow others to dictate its emotional state. It remains steady, focused, and in control, regardless of external circumstances. And this doesn't happen by accident. It happens through consistent effort, through practicing patience, through challenging your impulses, through actively choosing not to be controlled by fleeting emotions. Look at the people who are constantly overwhelmed by frustration and anger. Are they in control of their lives? Are they moving forward, growing, achieving their goals? No, they are stuck in a cycle of reaction, constantly being pulled in different directions by whatever happens to upset them that day. But the people who cultivate discipline, who train themselves to stay composed, to remain calm even when chaos surrounds them, those are the people who build real power. Every time you refuse to react impulsively, you get stronger. Every time you choose to stay calm instead of lashing out, you take control. And over time, this discipline transforms you. It turns you into someone who cannot be easily shaken. Someone who navigates the world with clarity and purpose rather than emotion and impulse. The world will always be chaotic. People will always test you. But if you have the discipline to master yourself, nothing and no one will ever be able to control you again.